Hi, and welcome back to CNN. Today we have a recap on the First Lady's speech given at the 4th Conference for Women's Rights at the United Nations. This conference started back in 1975 when the United Nations declared a decade for women. This will be the first conference held for women since 1985. This conference has been going on since September 4th and will continue until September 15th. This year's conference focuses on action for equality and developmental peace. With 189 countries being represented, we'll be hearing a lot of perspectives from around the world. Today, however, at CNN, we will be covering a speech from earlier today from our very own Hillary Rodham Clinton. We received information earlier today that she was advised by government officials to not talk about women's rights and keep the issue off the international stage as to not strain relationships with other nations. However, as we are about to show you, she did not take heed to the advice and is giving a speech on human rights and women's rights. Let's see some highlights from the speech.
If there is one message that echoes forth from this conference, let it be that human rights are women's rights and women's rights are human rights once and for all.
She certainly makes her message clear from those in the audience, and now that we get to read it, we know what she's saying. The chiasmus she uses when talking about women's rights and human rights lets the audience know that a victory in the name of women's rights is a victory in the name of human rights. She enunciates every word so that the audience understands the gravity of her statement, the atrocities being committed. She clearly has an agenda. Following this point, she decides to put pressure on the countries. Let's take a look.
It is a violation of human rights when babies are denied food or drowned or suffocated or their spines broken simply because they are born girls.
She follows this claim with about 6 more, creating a list of a total of 7 atrocities that have been committed around the world recently. Her list creates an emphasis on the magnitude of issues going on right now. Additionally, she is able to call out specific countries without using them by name, which is a diplomatic move, but she's able to put pressure on them at the same time. She's hoping to shame these countries in public as a means for progress. We agree here at CNN that these crimes are unacceptable and need to be addressed. As this was going on, we had crew members outside Beijing because there was a forum taking place for those who could not enter the conference. We decided to ask people what they thought about this issue, and we'll insert a clip here.
And this is what we call the military sex slavery, which has been part of a policy of Japanese Imperial Army in World War II to conscript or forcibly recruit thousands of Asian women from Korea, the Philippines, China, Malaysia, and everywhere where the Japanese army went to occupy.
We can tell Clinton's speaking not only for us in America, but for women all over the world who want to have their voice heard. We can tell that the women in the forum and in the conference are disgusted by the acts going on. She uses her voice to convey the message of equality to dictators, kings, and governments all around the world because they are the ones implementing policies that are hurting us. She also brings up an issue that affects almost all women, regardless of their nationalities, which members outside the forum also agreed to talk about. Let's take a look.
Tragically, women are most often the ones whose human rights are violated. Even now, in the late 20th century, the rape of women continues to be used as an instrument of armed conflict.
It was in the Second World War in 1943, 44, 45, when the Japanese army occupied the Philippines, that her experience of rape and sexual violence from the Japanese army started.
Clinton makes the point that the rape of women is often intrinsically tied with war and violence, right now. Women are being used as instruments of destruction completely against their will. She brings light to this issue because women around the world, as we can tell from our clip, think this needs to be addressed.
Women must enjoy the rights to participate fully in the social and political lives of their countries if we want freedom and democracy to thrive and endure. It is indefensible that many women in non-governmental organizations who wish to participate in this conference have not been able to attend or have been prohibited from fully taking part.
This is where she starts to appeal to the Western world, as they hold a lot of influence in the international community. All around the world, we hold the ideals of freedom, democracy, and progress dear to our hearts. Her final argument about the relationship between these ideals and the well-being of women completely ties in her conclusion that the progress of the international community as a whole relies on the well-being of women. At CNN, we had the opportunity to watch this speech a few hours earlier to become intimate with its presentation and its content. Her composure was kept throughout the entire speech, which invited the audience to listen and not be repelled by such a radical idea. Her outfit showed that she still values her femininity. Her argument was compelling and well supported. We're excited to see how the international community reacts, and we cannot wait to continue to offer coverage. Thank you and good night.